just got back from the Lost Odyssey Book of Knowledge and wanted to give you a kind of behind the scenes lowdown of a little story and what we built and how it all came to pass. So Lost Odyssey was this really cool fundraiser event to benefit the Autism Society of America. DM was Deborah Ann Wall, star-filled cast of players, well-produced event, really cool live game. So the producers called us up and said, hey, we want to put a whole bunch of terrain on the table. We said, absolutely, whatever you need, we'll build something together. Hopped on the phone and figured out we're going to do dioramas. They're like mood dioramas, right? Some builds that weren't actually going to be played on, just some builds to kind of set the stage for each scene. There were 3 major scenes. There was a scene with a dock and an ocean. There was a scene with a castle in a creepy forest. And there was a scene in a cave with a massive spider webs, the Tailweaver's Lair. And they all had to be done relatively quickly, such some of the stuff would have to be built out in the field at the event. But that is exactly the kind of challenge we were super excited for. So we rolled up our sleeves. Actually, we always wear short sleeves. So I don't know, we got ready, got out our tools and dove in. So let's take a look at all the little tricks we did to create this stuff for the event. Check it out.
Where you have now found yourself perched on a ledge opposite the Tailweaver. She and Vesnus seem to know one another, and there are cobwebs spread everywhere.
Hello, Deborah. This is the 3rd table build. This is for Tailweaver's Lair. I haven't obviously added the spider webs yet, but I kind of need to lock the design before I build the spider webs because that's going to be a whole adventure.
So for the base of the Tailweaver's Lair, I took a whole bunch of Caverns D pieces and some of her Caverns pieces and built like this really cool cavernous chasm as a framework for the web. And of course, it went through a bunch of revisions.
Hey, Lost Odyssey team, here's a revision on the Tailweaver's Lair. Alright, so here's a revised version of the revised version of the Tailweaver's Lair. So this is where I'm at. It's 2 days before showtime, and we have everything built except for the big massive web in the Web Weaver's Lair. So check it out. Then, once the framework was figured out, I had to figure out, okay, well, how are we going to make this really cool big spider web? And I wanted to do something sort of cheat it towards camera so we could sort of see it better out in the audience. Didn't want it to be horizontal. But the good news was it didn't need to be playable, right? It was just sort of decorative, set the mood, so it didn't need to be playable terrain. So I've opened up a lot of options of what are we going to do. For the web, we tried a whole bunch of different options. First, I was trying to just make webbing out of hot glue. And after an hour of burning my fingers and whatnot, Nina said, hey, dummy, why don't you get yarn? They already have a thing that exists that looks like that. I also tried this, so we got this, you know, the Halloween, the stretchy, like, spiderweb Halloween stuff. I got some of that, tried that. I tried mixing that with hot glue to try and make, like, webbing, this interesting, irregular webbing. Too much work, so Nina's suggestion of yarn was a fantastic one. So we went to Michael's and got all these different types of yarn. We got thick yarn, got thin yarn, we got yellow yarn, we got this like crazy baby blanket yarn, we got this yarn with little tendrils hanging off, and we got this really shiny yarn that had some glisten. And the big winner was this yarn with these cool little side bits coming off. It looked really organic. And I got this web gun that was, it's hot glue gun with an air compressor in it, so it sprays out the hot glue in these fine filaments. We're gonna try out this brand new web caster gun. Essentially hot glue gun, air compressor blasting through. It's gonna spray strands of hot glue, which should theoretically make this amazing, beautiful spider web, or be a total messy disaster. I don't know, let's find out. Hey, see it filming, whoa, it got me! Get in close, watch it around here, ready? Watch this, like, start to build up. Let's try it on some cavern and see what happens. Wow, powerful wind. Ooh, together. Alright, so, it's pretty awesome. It's very hard to control. But look at these really cool strands. They grab onto this yarn so nicely. And then I think we can, if we're crafty, we can peel, like there's a lot of excess. We can kind of peel this stuff off and then stretch it to like another piece and create
really neat multi-level. Oh yeah, there's gonna be possibilities. Wow, look at that. It's like a tunnel. Ooh, and I can stretch it. This stuff is stretchy. Pop it out. We can do some. It bulks up pretty fast. Ooh, look at that. Yeah, I can do some neat. So, right? It's like magic. I think the key is going to be spraying it on and then stretching it out and playing with it once it's on there, because it's really hard to control, but then I can control it in post. All right, lots of possibilities. Who knows what's going to happen? I feel like a mad scientist. Woo! So I got out to LA 2 days before showtime. Basically had roughly 48 hours to put this whole thing together. So I'm here in LA. I've unpacked everything. We had a few casualties from the baggage handlers, but all of this is going to get assembled into the tail weaver's lair, and then I have to actually build the big giant spider web. The first challenge is creating a web strand by strand is pretty time consuming. So it was just a lot of it was like, can I log in enough time to build this whole web out, crazy glue each strand to the other strand, cover it all with the web gun. Might as well get an air compressor, get the web gun running, cover it all, get that all done in time. Now I'm strand by strand building the rest of this giant web. It's not the fastest process in the world, but I think the results are gonna be really cool. I wanted to pick out some of the cool bits. So we have some custom painted mushrooms that Aaron repainted some of the Caverns Deep mushrooms to pop. We got some bones in there. That guy's, I don't know if you can see that guy cocooned there. The gal cocooned against the wall. Mushrooms, bone piles. Another cocoon victim in there. Another cocooned guy. Lots of little mushrooms, stalactites. Yeah, this web effect, I'm really happy with how this web effect worked out. Now I just have to do the big giant one. Look at that glowing mushroom. Wow. We'll see. All right, so let's turn this thing into a full-blown web. So I'm a couple hours into putting together this web. I'm trying to work on multiple axes and make it interesting. But I think it's gonna be cool. I'm gonna make a second center here and figure out something over here to make it cool and kind of give players a way to get to there, to there. And then I blast it with the web gun and tie the whole thing together. But I think it's gonna work. All right, so I'm almost done with the webbing here, but what I've discovered is that I've kind of obscured all my wonderful work underneath there. Like you can't see those cocoon victims and all that stuff underneath. It's really almost impossible to see at this point. I have this really neat, like 3D layered web effect. It's working, but it's hard to see on that. So I'm gonna underlight it and see what happens, see if that brings out any of the detail. We got this really cool mini from Eldritch Foundry, right? Check this thing out. Dude, look at that thing. It's okay, Chris Schmidt painted it, I think. Look, custom, big, like it's beefy. So apparently, Deborah wants to put this on the web and move it around. So there's that. So let's see, this is gonna be the moment of reckoning. Is it going to just rip through everything I built? And I don't know, because it's got some heft to it. This is not made of lead. Yeah, it's not the most stable of things, but it'll. Tell you what, that looks cool. Wow, I wouldn't want to have to fight that, huh? I don't know how she's gonna balance PC minis on here also. There are gonna be some casualties, for sure.
Moving away from you two. Oop, but you don't do that. That would be mean. You're still standing there. Okay.
Got the build out on the table in rehearsal, and I quickly realized that, well, they didn't have a really good close-up camera on it, one, which is disappointing, and two, it read really flat, right? They didn't have specialized lighting for it because they're lighting for a whole stage with actors, so it looked really flat. So I realized I wanted to get light inside of it to kind of give it some depth and dimension. So I ran out at 8 a.m. the next morning to the hardware store and just bought every LED they had. I bought miniature flashlights, I bought bike lights. Does this thing work? We bought these little rave lights, glow sticks, headlamps. Tried every possible LED you had. The big winner were these little tiny rave lights because they were small enough that I could hide them. So I hot glued a bunch under some other terrain and then put another layer of terrain on the inside with a bunch of these hitting the inside of the stone, and it worked pretty well. Except the batteries die really fast. So I had to. I realized I burned about half the battery testing it out, and then had to figure out how to crack these open, change out all the batteries in the back, in the dark backstage before we went live. I'm backstage. They're in the pre-show right now, and I'm trying to change the batteries on these little. Let's see if you can see these things. I didn't actually realize that the batteries ran low until when the show started. I put one of these behind. They had this cool crystal skull in the background to illuminate it. About an hour into the show, I was like, oh my gosh, that light is almost completely dead. So then I turned another one on and watched it go, and watched it in about 45 minutes, watched it die also. So I realized I had maybe an hour and a half of life on these batteries, and I'd already burned a good hour on them testing them. So I had to then change all the batteries in the dark. And intermission, my big mission is to get all these lights cooking in here and bring this thing around out on the stage and get it out right out there. Let's see what happens. Unhot glue everything, change all the batteries, pop them back in, hot glue, reset it backstage in the dark before we went live. But you know what? It looks good. And it worked.
She's gonna spend her movement to roll back over. There she is, facing all of you.
So, Lost Odyssey, great success. I'm really proud of what we put together. It was really fun to blend theater of the mind with terrain, show how you can do a game that has both. It was awesome to be part of such a cool event that raised a bunch of money for a really good cause. And I hope this could inspire you guys to show you that our terrain is just a starting point, right? You can use our bits and then get some LEDs from the hardware store, get some yarn, build out your own bits, enhance it with your own creativity, use our stuff just as it's a springboard, a starting point. And for the record, the hot glue web, you can peel it off. So if you want to get one of these web guns and some yarn, whatever, and make some crazy spider webs, it comes off relatively easy off your terrain. It won't ruin your terrain. So it's another trick you can add to your arsenal. And now we just have to figure out what we're doing next year. Lost Odyssey 2. Hope to see you there.